Hey guys, this is Ryan with Mom on Mission, and today I thought I would share with you how we use the Well-Trained Mind slash Susan Wise Bauer, Jesse Bauer language arts program. And we use their phonics program, their writing program, and their grammar program. And this might not be the most interesting of the How We Use series because we actually use this one pretty much according to how they suggest to use it. But nevertheless, I thought I would give you just a sneak peek of the curriculum and how we use it, even though it's not much different than how the book will tell you to use it. So first off, their phonics program is called the Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading. And I've used this with both my boys. My now third grader used it. I didn't use it for kindergarten with him. I didn't know about this yet. But after he got a pretty solid foundation of reading with Horizons, we weren't really happy with that program, so we moved over to this the summer after kindergarten. And so he finished learning to read with this. And we love this program. So this is set up in very short, manageable lessons. There's a lot of lessons in here, but I think it is actually suggested to be stretched out over 2 years. Don't quote me on that, that might be wrong, but I feel like it's enough lessons for sure to go 2 years. But they are pretty short and they're just numbered, and it's basically go at your own pace. So we do basically just a lesson a day. We don't get to it every single day, but most days if we're doing school, we're doing this. And there's just a little explanation on the reasoning behind whatever rule you're working on, silent K with an N or whatever. And then it's just basically a lot of practice. So this is toward the beginning, lesson 38. So you'll see just very simple words, and then usually after you go through and read the words with your child, then you will read the story. And you can read it together, or sometimes my son and I will alternate line by line. And then there's usually, not always, but there's an optional follow-up, usually at the end. And it's usually some sort of hands-on activity just to kind of reiterate those concepts. And I usually only use those if he's kind of struggling to grasp a concept. Typically, this is pretty cut and dry, but it does its job. So we just do one lesson a day, and then they do suggest you do 2 review and 1 new. So go back 2 lessons and kind of review the past 2 lessons before you move on to the next one. And so we do that. But the thing I love about this is if you get stuck on a lesson where they're not really grasping it, they tell you, like, stop and just work on this. Like, do that same page over and over again until they get it. But we love this program, and that is how we use it. Pretty cut and dry. So we also use first language lessons for the Well-Trained Mind. This one that I have right now is level 3 for my third grader. We have used level 1 and level 2 with him. He did those in first and second grade, obviously, but it's not always, it doesn't necessarily mean that is the level you're supposed to use for that grade. That's just how it worked out for that child. For my current first grader, he hasn't started this yet, so he'll do level 1 in second grade because he's kind of a younger first grader, so I just kind of wanted to have that buffer year. But this is broken up several different ways. There are, I can't remember, 89 just regular lessons in here. But then there's also, this is just for level 3. The first 2 levels are a little different, but for level 3, there's also toward the end of the book, there's a section all about oral usage. There's a section all about dictionary skills, and there's a section all about letter writing. So like writing a formal or a friendly letter. And they have in the back of the book a little table that shows you the different ways that you could maybe schedule how to do those. So the way we have done it is option C, where basically you do a few of the regular numbered lessons, and then you do a few lessons from the back, and then you do a few numbered lessons, then some lessons from the back. And this equals out to about 3 lessons a week. You'll occasionally have a week that has 4 lessons. So we just typically do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those are our heavier school days anyway. So we just do grammar on those 3 days. First level and second level, I believe, do not have any written work really. It's mostly all done orally. Level 3, there's a lot of oral, but there is also, especially once you get into diagramming the sentences, there is book work. So this is the student workbook, and we just go ahead and tear those pages out and use it like an actual workbook. Some things I'll make copies of. This one I just didn't really do that. So the one thing I will say about this that we don't really do according to how they say is when there are days with a lot of copy work or a lot of writing skills, because sometimes they kind of overlap with their writing book and their grammar book. If there's a lot of writing stuff in it, we might not do it because their writing program is so strong that I don't feel like we really need to take the extra time to do that. And then something else we kind of change is kind of how we do with his math. If he's getting a concept and there's lots of chances for him to practice it, and if he gets it after the first few practices, then I'm not going to make him do a whole bunch more than that. It's just kind of, I understand that like repetition is really good, but if it's something that I feel really confident that he has a hold on, I'm not going to like sit there and make him do it over and over and over, especially if it's like a heavy writing day. So that is how we use first language lessons. We love this program, and basically use it how they say to, other than we do skip some problems if he's got a hold of a concept, and we also might skip some of the stuff that kind of bleeds into his writing. Now, last we use Writing with Ease. This is level 3, and this specific one has the student pages and the like teacher's manual all in one. So I have him, instead of writing in the student pages, I have him just write in a notebook, since it's all one book. But the back is where you will find the sections of literature that you have to read. And so how this is set up is, if you're familiar with this approach at all, you'll understand, but this is set up into, I think, 32 or 36 weeks, and 4 days for each week. So we do typically Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for this. And your first day is typically narration. So we'll read the passage in the back of the book, or he'll read it. Sometimes I read it aloud, just depends. And then I will ask him to narrate it back to me. So just tell me what happened. And sometimes I'll kind of direct him, like, tell me what happened when Wilbur the pig did XYZ, you know. And then he just narrates it back to me in like kind of a summary form, and I write it down and he watches me. So he is making his own thoughts, but I'm taking out the work of him actually having to put it to paper, because Susan Wise Bauer teaches that there are different stages to writing. There is copy work is kind of its own thing, just actually practicing writing. And then there is narration, where you have to basically retell and come up with your own thoughts, your own ideas of what is of information that's already been given to you. And then there's the actual taking those thoughts and putting them to paper. So on Mondays we just work on narration. He doesn't have to do any actual writing. And then day 2 is typically dictation. So they've moved on in this third level from just copy work, and instead they do dictation. So I read a small section, it's usually 2 to 3 sentences, and he has to copy that the best he can. I recite it to him a few times, and then he has to recite it back to me and write it down. So that's helping him keep those words in memory and like spitting them back out like you would have to once you're writing full papers, you have to come up with your own ideas and then slowly process those and put them onto paper. So day 3 combines narration and dictation. So we will again read a passage, and then he will narrate it back to me, and then I will write it down, but he will not watch. I will just write it down, and then I will pick a small section of his narration to dictate to him. So that's kind of like him writing down his own thoughts, but I'm just kind of the buffer helping him to get those into his mind before he puts them to paper. And then day 4 goes back and it's just another dictation. And then a lot of times on day 4 especially, they kind of pick a grammar aspect to focus on. So like this is week 26, and the focus is abbreviations for months and the days of the week. So I don't hone in too big on this because again, we use their grammar program, which is very in-depth. And so I might just say, hey, remember when we learned about the abbreviations for the months? Oh yeah, I remember that. Okay, great. See how they did that there? Yeah, okay, cool. And then we leave it at that. Sometimes they'll want you to talk about it or to highlight them or underline them or whatever, and we just typically don't do that because I feel like we do all of that in grammar anyway. So again, we use this basically how it is suggested to be used, 4 days a week, and the only exception being is that we don't always hone in on those grammar skills because he's getting plenty of that with their other program. So I imagine that we will use this program again next year. My first grader is nearing the end of Ordinary Parents Guide to Teaching Reading. He's not quite there yet, but we'll probably get through it this summer. And like I said, my other son has done first language lessons and writing with ease for 3 years, and I won't say he loves it, but he just doesn't love language arts in general, so that's not really a surprise. But he does well with it. So if you have any questions about any of this curriculum, let me know and I will gladly answer them down below. And I thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.